Hello, my name is Michael DeAngelo, and I'm going to cover linked roles when you have governance enabled in GlassFrog. So what are linked roles? Linked roles are basically when you have a role in one part of the organization, as part of a team, that you'd like to embed in another part of the organization. So let's take a look at a specific example. So in this organization, there is a project management office, and one of the roles is project manager. And in another part of the organization, we have a team called Project Genesis, which is its purpose is to build a new product or service. And they would like to add a project manager to the team in order to help them deliver that service. And the PMO would like to assign one of the project managers to Project Genesis. They want to assign that role to Project Genesis, but they don't want to give up control over the purpose and accountability of the role of the project manager definition. So let's take a closer look at this. In the PMO, we can see there's the project manager, and we'll notice that there's three people that are filling that role. One of the members of the team has a focus and a background around technical projects, which is perfect because that's exactly what the Project Genesis team needs. And in Project Genesis, they have multiple team members, and most of which, interestingly enough, are actually linked roles from another part of the organization. And they'd like to add project manager to one of to part of their team as another teammate. So Project Genesis, the way they would add that team member is they would start a governance meeting. And in the governance meeting, we're going to add an agenda item. And now they want to add, they've decided that, person's raised this proposal, maybe it's the circle lead, and they'd like to propose adding a role from outside the organization into their team. And they're going to choose project manager, specifically the focus technical projects. So they want to bring in that focus into the team. So that is the proposal. It goes through the normal governance process. And let's say it makes sense and everyone accepts the proposal. So now that I close the meeting, I can now see that the project manager is there as part of the project team. And if I select the project manager, I can see that it's actually in the PMO. And as part of that project manager role definition, it includes information, the fact that it's linked in to the Project Genesis circle. All right. Now let's say that the Project Genesis wants to modify some accountabilities. Now, Project Genesis can't modify the accountabilities here or the purpose here because these are centrally defined by the PMO. But Project Genesis can add additional accountabilities that make sense specifically in the context of Project Genesis. Let's say, for example, there is a website called Project Genesis that needs to have updated project information. And it made sense to the team to make that an additional accountability for the project manager. Now we look here at the existing accountabilities. There's nothing about updating the Project Genesis website. So they'd like to add that as an accountability to the PMO, to the project manager. So the way you would do that is in the Project Genesis, in your governance meeting, just like any other role, someone raises attention and they talk about attention as discussed, but they want to modify the project manager LinkedIn role. And you can see here that the list of roles that are available for governance, one of them is this LinkedIn role. You can select it. Now they can't change the name because that's governed by the PMO. They can't change the purpose, but they can add a new accountability. And the new accountability is about maintaining the project information. Okay. So this now is the proposal for the team. It goes through the governance process, and let's say it's accepted. So close the meeting. So now Project Genesis, we look at the roles. We can see there's the project manager. We can select it, which takes you over to PMO, which is really where the role is. You can see that It's linked in Project Genesis, and it has an additional accountability of maintaining the project information on the Project Genesis website. So that's how you modify a linked role. Now, the question is, how do you remove a linked role? It depends on, there's a couple of ways to do it. One is that the role itself can remove from the link because it's governed by a PMO, and it maybe no longer makes sense for it to be part of that. If you're operating under the system of rules called Holacracy, that constitution describes that you have to have a policy that defines this. But within GlassFrog, it can be removed here by the role filler, or it can also be removed like any other governance process. In Project Genesis, they can start a governance meeting. And they can decide that they want to modify the project manager, and they simply want to remove that role, that linked role, from their circle. So it only removes it from the circle, it removes the link. It doesn't remove it at all from the PMO. They accept that proposal, assuming it passes and it closes. And what that'll do is it will remove the project manager from Project Genesis, and the PMO, when you look at the project manager role, you no longer see the additional accountabilities or the leaked in information for that circle. So that is how you add, modify, and remove linked roles when you have governance enabled in GlassFrog.